Hello, and welcome back to yet another video. This is the 7th episode in a Naruto Uzumaki story in which a few little changes might have a significant impact. Knowledge provided early in Naruto's career converted him from a hopeless loser to a powerful and skilled shinobi. Historical differences that have long ago passed have resulted in a totally different consequence than we imagined. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get the party started. It was late in the afternoon that Team 7 trudged through the gates of Konoha. The trip home had been rather quiet and awkward for the three Jonin. Naruto had been silent the entire way, not even making the usual snide and sarcastic remarks to anyone in the group as he was wont to do, and had seemingly withdrawn into himself almost as soon as they had left Nami. Sasuke had switched between continuously playing with his Sharingan and glaring at it or trying to goad Naruto into a fight. Having heard that the blonde had single-handedly decimated Gato and his forces that had shown up after the battle, the raven-haired Avenger had been disappointed that he had not gotten to prove himself against the horde of thugs Gato had come with, and jealous that Naruto had been able to do that while he had been knocked out. And so now he wanted nothing more than to fight Naruto and prove that he could beat the blonde, feeling secure in his chances of winning now that he had his Sharingan. Sakura had also been surprisingly quiet, switching between looking longingly at Sasuke and worriedly at Naruto. She was still going through some minor shock at having seen the blonde cry. It did not help that Kakashi had chosen to read his book instead of trying to engage in conversation and make sure his students were alright. Though that was mainly due to the fact that Kakashi had no clue what to do or say, having never had to deal with this kind of situation. Naruto refused to talk to him, or anyone. Sakura only tried talking to Sasuke, and she did not really get involved in this mission enough that it had any effect on her psyche. And Sasuke did not seem to be bothered at the fact that he had killed two Chunin, focusing his attention on either his new red eyes or Naruto. The silver-haired Jonin now had even more respect for his sensei than he had previously thought possible. The man had made this seem so easy, but apparently it was anything but. Ah! Kakashi-san. Gotetsu, one of the gate guards who had become known as the Eternal Chunin along with his partner Izumo, greeted as soon as they entered the gate. "I see you've returned. I trust the mission went well?" Kakashi grimaced on the inside. Well would not be how he put this mission, but he kept an indifferent face as he showed them his and his team's identification papers. "As well as can be expected for my team's first time out of Konoha," Kakashi replied in a nonchalant voice. Izumi, who sat next to Kotetsu, nodded. "Yeah, I remember my first time out of the village. Not quite the experience I had expected as a Jonin either." "That's because you accidentally sat in poison ivy," Kotetsu snickered. "Shut up, man." Izumo shot his partner a small glare. "Did you have to bring that up?" "Yes," Kotetsu answered with a grin. "You sat in poison ivy, and then you had to have a specialized ointment for your ass." Kakashi ignored the two as they began to squabble since he had grown used to it by now. Turning around, he looked at his team. "I'm going to report to the Hokage. Since this mission was a bit more than we had anticipated, you three can head home and rest while I give my report." Sasuke nodded and left as soon as he said that. Hands in his pocket and his "I care about nothing, I'm an Uchiha" attitude in place. Sakura gave one last look to her sensei and the unusually quiet Naruto before leaving as well, following after Sasuke in the hopes of maybe getting a date. "Sensei," Naruto said in an unnaturally soft voice, getting the attention of the Cyclopean Jonin. "Can I go with you? I need to talk to Oji-san." "I see, he still doesn't quite trust me," Kakashi thought with a sigh. He should have known that Naruto would want to talk with the Hokage about what happened in Nami. Given how close the two were, it was only natural. Kakashi had tried to talk to Naruto about it, but the Jonin had rebuffed his advances with what Kakashi now recognized as his old mask, that cheerful smile he always gave. "I guess it will take a bit more to get him to open up to me." "Sure, Naruto, let's go," Kakashi said, turning around and walking off. A few seconds later, Naruto caught up and walked by his side. Sarutobi giggled perversely as he sat on the couch next to the pictures of the four Hokages and read his book. Over at his desk were two Kage Bunshines diligently working on the paperwork that he had. He really did have to thank Naruto for finding out such an ingenious use for the jutsu. Truly, the boy was a genius like his father was. He was knocked out of his thoughts when a knock came at his door. "Hokage-sama, Kakashi and Naruto of Team 7 are here to see you." Sarutobi sighed as he heard both the hesitation and the disgust that his aide had when she said Naruto's name. He was going to have a talk with her. And if she can't change her opinions about him, I guess I'll just have to fire her. Standing up as his clones dispelled, Sarutobi sat down in his chair and addressed his aide. "Send them in." The two opened and Kakashi walked in with an unusually subdued Naruto. Sarutobi quirked an eyebrow as he saw the boy's solemn and fearful expression. He shook his curiosity off and looked over at Kakashi. "Ah. Kakashi, Naruto-kun, it is good to see you two back from your mission. However, I must ask, where are Sasuke and Sakura? The mission was a little more than we anticipated, Hokage-sama, so I sent them home to get some rest," Kakashi answered, giving the aging Sundaime a meaningful glance as he snapped his book shut. "Naruto here came because he wanted to talk to you." Understanding the look, Sarutobi held up a hand. The Anbu who were hiding in the corner of the room appeared and then walked out of the door. Sarutobi used some chakra to activate the silencing seal that Minato had created when he had been Hokage. There was a soft glow that filled the room for a second before going back to normal. "I take it there was a lot more to this mission than simply an escort and protection detail," Sarutobi said, gesturing for Kakashi to give his report. "Hi Hokage-sama. The mission was much more than we expected. It started on our way to Nami, when we ran into two Chunin-level missing ninja from Kiri." Kakashi began explaining what had happened on the mission, making sure to be concise and to the point. When he got to the part where Naruto had used the Kyuubi's chakra, Sarutobi stiffened and Naruto flinched. "Afterwards we left Nami and headed straight here," Kakashi finished. "I see," Sarutobi said, puffing on the pipe he had gotten out sometime during the report. "To think that such a thing could happen on a mission that was supposed to be a simple C rank. This is what we get when we have a bad case of misinformation, both from our client and apparently our network outside of the village. Still, to hear that a squad of Jonin were able to complete a mission that was easily A-ranked is astounding to say the least, even if the Jonin with them was a ninja of Kakashi's caliber." Sarutobi looked at Naruto, who was emitting so many emotions it was hard to tell what the boy was thinking. "Thank you Kakashi-kun, you may go now," Sarutobi said, knowing that Naruto would want to speak with him alone. "Hi Hokage-sama," Kakashi bowed a bit. He briefly put a reassuring hand on Naruto's shoulder before leaving. When the door shut again, Sarutobi left the silencing seals on as he stood up and moved over to the couch, gesturing for Naruto to follow him. Sarutobi said nothing as the boy sat next to him, knowing the boy would speak when ready. "You already know I use the fox's chakra," Naruto began. Why don't you start at the beginning?" Sarutobi said in a kind voice after Naruto stopped speaking. The boy nodded before beginning again. "It started when I met a girl in the woods. Her name was Haku." As Naruto started his own story, Sarutobi paid close attention to the boy's emotions. It was obvious this was a painful experience for him, even more so than learning about the fox. As the Sundaime listened, he found himself surprised again. He had never heard of two enemy ninja falling in love while on opposing missions, and he had experienced and heard a lot of things in his life. It seemed that boy would always be able to find some way to surprise Sarutobi. However, as the boy reached the part where the girl had died, Sarutobi knew, at least partly, just how hurt the boy still was. And then Gato showed. Naruto began, his fists clenching as he thought of the man. "I can't remember all that was said, I wasn't really paying attention. However, when he started talking about Haku-chan, and how he was going to desecrate her body. He choked a bit on the words but forced them out. I got so angry, and then a voice came inside my head." Sarutobi stiffened at that as Naruto looked at him. "Kill," it said. "It told me to kill, to take revenge on those who had forced Haku-chan to fight and those who would." I remember being overcome by rage after that, of slaughtering all those Gato had brought with him, and Gato himself. I had literally squeezed his head hard enough that it exploded. Sarutobi nearly gagged as he got a mental image of Naruto simply squeezing the man with such force that his head literally blew up. Now, being a man who had lived through all three wars, he had seen acts that were far worse than what his surrogate grandson had described. He had seen countless acts of brutality, and had even lain witness to the power of a Jinchuriki while using their Baiju, as well as having fought two of them in his life. However, the fact that the person who had killed a man in such a violent way was the young boy before him was enough that his normal desensitization to the violent lifestyle they lead to be overridden. Naruto looked down at his now shaking hands. "But that's not even the worst of it, Gigi." The young blonde took a shuddering breath. "What was is that I had loved every minute of it." Sarutobi looked at Naruto sharply, but his eyes softened when he saw the tears in the blonde's eyes. "It was horrible, like another person had taken over. My mind knew what my body was doing and rebelled, but my body loved it. The feel of blood on my hands as I killed them, the feeling of squishing Gato's head. I feel like I've become a monster." As the blonde began shaking even more, Sarutobi realized what had happened. Naruto got so angry that the fox was able to make a connection to him and influence the boy. For something like that to happen, he must have felt intense emotions. That the Kyuubi could actually talk to the boy is disturbing. I'm going to have to call Jiraiya here. Looking down at the shaking Shinon, Sarutobi felt his heart breaking, but not now. Right now I need to help Naruto. Naruto-kun, look at me, Sarutobi said softly. Naruto looked up at him and the old Sun Daime placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. I want you to listen to me. You are not a monster or a demon. You are a hero. Do you know why the Yondaime chose you to bear this responsibility? Naruto shook his head and the old Hokage gave him a smile. He chose you because he knew you would be capable of controlling the fox's chakra, and using that power to protect everything you cherish. It was a small stretch of the imagination. Minato had not had much of a choice in Vessel. Sarutobi was still not all that sure what had happened that night when he found Naruto crying beside the corpse of his mother and dying father. But he knew that Naruto had really been the only choice. However, it was also well known that Minato had been able to come up with plans several years into the future, and so Sarutobi knew that he had sealed the fox in his son for a reason aside from the obvious ones, when he could have just sealed it back into Kushina, who had been the fox's previous Jinchuriki. Really? Naruto asked with a small sniff as he wiped his eyes with his cloak. But doubt, how can I possibly control such a monster? Kyuubi is supposed to be the strongest of the Baijuju in that bloodlust. Naruto shuddered as he remembered the feeling he had gotten when he had used the fox's chakra. Truthfully, I do not know how Yondaime-sama planned on having you control the Kyuubi, Sarutobi frowned. Perhaps he thought you would make some kind of deal with it, or perhaps he thought you would be able to subdue it. But I do know that he felt you would be able to use its chakra to protect the people you love. Naruto was silent for a moment as he stared at Sarutobi. Every time the man talked about the Yondaime's faith in him, it felt like there was some kind of hidden meaning, though he could not fathom what that would be. Do you think I can do it? Naruto asked in a quiet voice. Sarutobi gave him a smile. I know you can do it. If anyone can, it would be you, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled a genuine smile as he gave his grandfather figure a hug. Thanks, Ji-chan. Sarutobi chuckled as he hugged the boy back. You are most welcome, Naruto-kun. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to ask. Do you think Haku-chan would be disappointed in me? Asked Naruto after a few seconds. Sarutobi sighed. Truthfully, I don't know. I do not know anything about this Haku girl except what you have told me. However, it sounds as if she loves you just as much as you love her. I do not think she would be mad or disappointed in you. I believe that so long as you keep in your heart and continue to grow and protect the people who are precious to you, her soul will be able to rest in peace. Naruto nodded as he stood up. He still felt a little scared, still felt the pain of losing Haku. But at least it felt a bit more bearable now. Standing up, he plastered a smile on his face, deciding that his old look was needed for the moment. I'll see you later, Oji-san, Naruto called out as he left. It seems I'll need Jiraiya to come sooner than I thought, Sarutobi frowned. If the seal is weakened enough that the fox can influence the boy. For now I will have faith in Naruto's will. I believe he is strong enough to resist the fox. Sighing a bit as he walked up the stairs to his apartment, Naruto reached out a hand and was just about to channel some chakra into the security seals when he heard a noise that made him freeze. Eyes widened, he channeled chakra into the seal and as soon as the door unlocked burst in, only to see a sight that made him pale. WHWH, what the hell are you two doing? Lying on the couch was Kain in nothing but a pair of boxers, and Akira wearing only a pink thong that the blonde knew for a fact his clone had not been wearing when he left. Kain had one hand on Akira's left breast and his mouth had been latched onto her neck, at least, until Naruto had barged in and was now hanging open wide enough to fit one of the faces on the Hokage monument in. Likewise, Akira, who had been moaning previously, was staring at him in shock and embarrassment. Kain tried to speak. However, Naruto stomped into the room angrily as he glared at his two specially created clones. I asked you a question. What the hell are you two doing? Naruto ground out, his face completely red, though whether from embarrassment or anger not even he knew. Well, it just sort of happened, you know, Akira said, her face also red. After we got the memories of you and Haku from your other cage Bunshine, we grew curious. What the hell? I know clones are capable of independent thought and these two can even be considered people in their own right. But I never thought something like this could happen. Naruto said with a mental scream. Slowly he took a deep breath. How long has this been going on? Naruto asked before he held a hand up. Wait. Never mind, I'll find out for myself. Kain looked at him confusingly. What do you mean? A puff of smoke signaled Naruto, giving the mental command to dispel of them both. Naruto's eyes fluttered as information came to him. The progress the two made at their jobs, along with how much money he had from them. Akira's shopping spree where she bought several pairs of female clothes, Kain's hobby of collecting unusual manga, And finally, his two clones eventually getting into some heavy petting. That information was so overwhelming and embarrassing, not to mention disgusting, especially since he saw it from both sides, that he passed out and hit the floor with a thud. The next morning found Naruto waking up wondering what hit him. Looking around from his position, he realized three things. 1. He was on the floor of his apartment right next to the entrance, which was still open and hitting his left leg. 2. It was already morning, meaning he had slept on the floor of his apartment all night. And 3. His special clones were going to need some serious reprogramming to make sure this didn't happen again. Standing up, he shuddered a bit as the information of his two clones filled his mind, and he was forced to resist an intense urge to vomit. Thankfully they had not had sex. If they had, he most likely would have died of shock, embarrassment and disgust. But that they had started actually getting into each other was repulsive to say the least. And it was worse for him since he saw what was happening on both sides, making the experience all the more disturbing. It went without question that he would be doing his best to fix them when he made the pair again so that they did not remember their intimate encounter. Sighing, he decided to get his day started. After getting ready, Naruto found himself at Training Ground 10, where he hoped to find Team 10 training. His sensei had given his team the week off to recover from the ordeal they were put through. However, Naruto felt an intense need to keep himself as busy as possible, feeling that so long as he was busy, the memories would not bother him. So here he was looking for some help in his elemental training. Of course he did find them, though training did not even seem to be on the mind of their team. Shikamaru and Asuma were seated under a large tree, a board situated between them. The two would move pieces back and forth. Occasionally Shikamaru would take a piece and Asuma would look at the board in frustration. Kuji was eating a bag of potato chips, an act that the Akimichi Jinan was always doing at just about every time of the day. He was sitting down next to Shikamaru watching the match going on between his best friend and his sensei. And Ino. Was complaining, loudly. What she was complaining about Naruto didn't know, she was talking so fast even he could barely make it out. Not that he cared to find out, since the girl was always complaining about something. With the people, or in this case person he had been looking for found, Naruto set off in their direction. "Come on, why do you guys all have to be so lazy?" Ino yelled as she tried to get one of her teammates or her sensei to do something. Shouldn't they be training to be ninja? How could she impress Sasuke if all he did was sit around here being lazy? Aren't we supposed to be training after missions? Ino, we are training, Asuma said as he took a puff of his cigarette. Shogi requires a tactically sound mind and is a good way to come up with strategies that the team might employ. And yet, only you and Shikamaru ever play the game, Ino said with an angry huff. Asuma frowned and was about to make a retort when a voice called out his name. Asuma-sensei. Turning their heads, the three Jinan and Jonin-sensei saw Naruto running towards them in a light trot. When he got near them he stopped and grinned. "Just the person I was looking for." The three Jinan looked at him in confusion. Well, Shikamaru and Kuji looked confused, while Ino just looked disgruntled. "Naruto, what are you doing here?" she asked, placing her fists on her hips and looking at him in a haughty fashion. "In case you haven't noticed, this isn't your training ground. You can't just waltz around wherever you want." Raising an eyebrow, Naruto looked at Ino for a moment, before he shrugged and turned his attention to Asuma. "I was actually coming here to ask you for some advice, Asuma-sensei." While Ino fumed at being ignored, Asuma and the others looked surprised, but the Jonin merely shrugged. "Shouldn't you be asking Kakashi for whatever help you need?" he asked. "He is your Jonin sensei after all." "I have," Naruto said with a small shrug, "however he doesn't have enough knowledge on what I want help with, and Oji-sen suggested I talk with you about it?" Asuma's eyebrows rose a good deal. Kakashi was exceptionally gifted and hailed as one of the strongest ninja under the Hokage. There were very few things he could not do that Asuma could, so what is it that you need then? In response, Naruto gave a grin and held up what Asuma noticed as chakra affinity paper. The man raised an eyebrow in curiosity, only for them to widen in shock as the paper was torn to shreds. Looking at the grinning Naruto, Asuma took a deep puff of his cigarette to calm the surprise he felt. "You have a wind affinity," he said slowly, "and a strong one at that, if the torn paper was any indication." Naruto nodded. "Yes, I've been working on the leaf-cutting exercise but have only been able to get it halfway. You're the only wind user in Konoha, so I was hoping you would have some advice." Nodding slightly to himself, Asuma stood up and reached into his pouch, pulling a trench knife. Holding it up so Naruto could see it, the Jonin channeled his wind chakra into the blade to create a green glow. "When I channel my wind chakra, I often think of it as two sharp edges rubbing against each other in order to create a sharp razor blade." Taking the knife, Asuma threw it at a tree. Naruto watched his mind going from amazement, to awe, to shock, as the weapon cut through tree, then the rock behind it, before coming out of the rock and embedding itself on the ground. Asuma looked at Naruto. The trick is to make the two edges as close as possible to create a sharp blade of wind that can cut through the leaf. Naruto nodded before running over to get the trench knife. Picking it up, Naruto walked over at a more sedate pace as he examined the knife. The blade looked extremely sharp and well maintained. The back edge looked slightly serrated, and the handles had hand guards. It was very simple, yet Naruto's time spent with Tenten had taught him quite a bit about weapons. "This is excellent quality," Naruto said as he handed the blade back. "I'm guessing the metal used is chakra conducive?" "It is," Asuma said with a raised eyebrow, the only indication of his surprise at the boy's knowledge of weaponry. The other three were not doing as well at hiding their surprise. Ino was looking between the two, her face somewhere between shock and curiosity. Kuji still eating threw glances at Naruto. Meanwhile, Shikamaru had his eyes narrowed at Naruto, as if trying to solve some sort of puzzle. "Maito-san told me that elemental manipulation is a Jonin-level ability. So why is Naruto already working on it?" Shikamaru wondered, his mind trying to come up with an answer, only to find none. "Hey, is that a shogi board?" His attention was diverted from trying to figure out how the blonde, who had been dead last of their class, could already be working on such an advanced ability. "Yeah, it is," Asuma said as Naruto examined the game that was currently in play. "You play?" "Not very much," Naruto admitted with a sigh as he ran a hand through his hair. "I've only played with my clones, but trying to beat yourself is an exercise in pointlessness." "You interested in a game?" asked Asuma. "I haven't been able to beat Shikamaru yet, it's getting rather frustrating." Naruto raised an eyebrow and looked over at Shikamaru. Sejunon shrugged, "I don't see why not." Naruto nodded and sat down as Shikamaru rearranged the pieces. Since Naruto was just starting out, Shikamaru gave him the first move. Naruto watched as Shikamaru went after him and moved his next piece almost immediately afterwards. His opponent looked a little startled but moved another piece. Again, Naruto moved one of his pieces almost immediately afterwards. Shogi was a game that was purely strategic. When playing, you used traps, making plans and strategies to take your opponent's pieces and eventually placing your opponent's king in checkmate. It required a knack for thinking several steps in advance. The farther ahead you could plan out your maneuvers, the more likely you were to win. 13 moves into the game, Shikamaru was sweating, having already used his thinking pose 7 times in just as many moves. He was beginning to feel desperate. He looked up at Naruto to see his fellow Jonin staring at the board impassively. Looking back at the board, Shikamaru calculated the best strategy he could before moving his piece. Naruto then moved his piece right after. Shikamaru looked at the board carefully and moved another piece. Less than half an hour later, Shikamaru was down to 1 gold general, 1 knight, his bishop and 6 pawns. Meanwhile, Naruto had only lost a gold general and 2 pawns. It was only 15 minutes later that Shikamaru leaned over the board in shock, trying to figure out how he lost. He lost, Kuji murmured, having stopped eating a while ago as the intensity of the match had begun to heat up. But Shikamaru's never lost. Asuma was also gaping at the scene. Having spent so much time trying to beat Shikamaru himself, it was rather hard to see someone else beat him. And for it to be the dead last of his students' graduating class, and his first time facing him, was even more shocking. Ino, who did not know much about shogi or care enough to find out, was the only one who was confused about what happened. "I don't get it. So he beat Shikamaru, so what?" "Ino, shogi is a game that requires an incredible amount of strategic thinking, using traps and combat maneuvers to eventually get the king into checkmate," Asuma said, trying to explain the significance of what happened. Huffing, Ino crossed her arms. "I know that. I just don't see what the big deal is. It was probably just luck." "I don't think so," Shikamaru said to himself as he replayed the match in his mind. "I've never seen some of those maneuvers before. He managed to beat me and only lost 3 pieces himself. That kind of thing can never be considered luck." "You're pretty good," he complimented the blonde. "Maybe we can play again sometime." Naruto grinned as he stood up. "Yeah, maybe. Anyways, thanks for the help, Asuma-sensei," he said as he turned to look at the son of Sarutobi. "No problem, it will be interesting to see what another wind user can do," Asuma said. Naruto nodded. "Well, thanks anyway. I'll see you guys later." Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke, signifying that they had been talking to a clone the whole time. "Cage Bunshine, eh?" Asuma thought as he took a drag of his cigarette. "I had heard he could use it, but I didn't realize he knew its secret. Definitely an interesting kid." "Hey, what was that?" asked Ino, Once again the only one who was ignorant. How did he just disappear like that? Everyone except Choji, who was eating, just sighed as Zeno began to ask questions in a loud voice. Within the clearing of Training Ground 43, all of the Naruto clones who were currently working on cutting a leaf in half looked up and blinked as the information came to them. With the new knowledge available, they got back to work on trying to cut a leaf. The original Naruto had also stopped his workout routine for a second as he received the memories of his cage Bunshine. Grunting from the exertion, he began doing push-ups again, counting down as he finished his set of 300. He continued doing his routine until one of his cage Bunshine dispelled, giving the knowledge that it had managed to cut a leaf in half. Nearly a second later, the sound of mass ripping was heard as all the clones cut their leaves as well. Yada! The clones shouted, causing Naruto to actually wince a bit. They weren't normally this excited, but given that he had been trying to learn to do this particular exercise for several weeks, it was quite an accomplishment. Standing up, Naruto began giving his clones orders. Alright. You know the drill. Dispel in groups of 10. After getting a unanimous yosh from his clones, Naruto walked over to one of the trees and sat down in a meditative pose. It was not necessary, but Naruto found he could sort through the information much easier if he was meditating. For about half an hour he went through the information his clones had on cutting a leaf with wind chakra. It was actually kind of interesting since his clones had independent thought. They did things differently from each other, giving him different perspectives from each clone. Once all the knowledge he gained was sorted, Naruto picked up one of the leaves that had fallen from the tree he was under. Channeling his chakra, he imagined two edges grinding together and sharpening. He nodded in satisfaction as the leaf split in half. Standing up, Naruto went back to his physical training. Smiling a bit to himself, Naruto entered the small ramen stand that had been one of his safe havens from the world when he was younger. After finishing his morning training, he decided that since he had not been to Ichiraku's for a while, he should go ahead and splurge. Oi! Tsuchiyoji-san. Ayame-chan. How about some ramen for your favorite customer? He shouted as he sat down in the stool reserved for him. Hey Naruto-kun. Ayame greeted with a large smile as she came out of the back. It turned into a frown, however, as she placed her hands on her hips. You know, you haven't been in very recently. Sorry Ayame-ne-chan. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and gave a sheepish laugh. I was out on a mission away the village. I just got back yesterday. Ayame pouted for a second more before grinning. Well, I suppose that's alright since you were out of the village. So the usual? You know me too well, Ayame-ne-chan, Naruto said with a grin. Alright then, it will be coming right up, Ayame said, enjoying the odd new nickname he seemed to have added to her title. As she began making Naruto's ramen, said Blonde decided to make some more conversation. So where's Tsuchiyoji-san? Asked Naruto, curious about where the old man was since he was usually the one to greet the blonde. He's out of the village getting some supplies for this new ramen he's trying to concoct, Ayame said as she stirred the pot with ramen noodles in it. So I've been working on my own for the past few days. Naruto nodded as Ayame brought his first bowl of ramen. Thanks Ne-chan, he said, snapping his chopstick and say a quick itadakimasu before digging in. Oh ramen, how I miss thee, Ayame giggled at Naruto's antics. She went back to making some more ramen, knowing Naruto would want at least 6 more bowls before feeling even remotely full. Naruto slowed down his eating a bit as he savored their flavor. Ramen from Ichiraku's had always been his comfort food, ever since he had found the place. He was so caught up in his eating that he did not notice the presence behind him until it was too late. You know, you should have told me you had returned. A pair of arms slid around him and Naruto stiffened at the contact. An image flashed through his mind. He was sitting in the clearing, spreading out the things he had prepared this morning for his and Haku's picnic. As he reached into the basket, a pair of arms slid around him. Despite knowing who it was, he turned around and laid eyes on the beautiful girl he had come to know so well in the past 3 days. Anko frowned when she noticed Naruto's reaction. The way he reacted was similar to how he always did, getting stiff as a board, except this time he did not blush and get all flustered like usual. Instead, he was pale and looked like he was barely holding himself together. You alright, Gaki? Anko asked, releasing Naruto and noticing how he seemed to sag afterwards. Why yeah, Naruto said, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. When he felt himself calm down, he opened them again and gave Anko his typical grin. So I'm guessing there's a reason you came all this way to find little old me. Anko frowned as she watched Naruto for a moment. He seemed tenser than before. Shaking her head, she decided not to bother with it. It wasn't any of her business. Well, Kakashi's been so busy bragging about you to the other Jonin in the lounge, I figured I had to see you and figure out what the Cyclops seemed to be so proud of. He's bragging about me? Naruto asked, blinking a bit. That Kakashi would brag about him was surprising. Well, Team 7, Anko corrected, but mostly you. He says you've improved quite a bit and that you were an integral part on your first mission out of the village. Once again she frowned when Naruto winced. Are you okay, Gaki? Why yeah, of course I am, Naruto lied, not ready to let Anko in on what happened. Why wouldn't I be? Anko's frown deepened. Because you're not acting like yourself. Did something happen on the mission? I really don't want to talk about my recent mission, Anko, Naruto said, looking away from Anko. Why? Anko asked, sounding confused. I want to know what happened. Kakashi won't tell us anything about the specifics, but I said, I don't feel like talking about it. Naruto glared at her as he spoke. Anko was taken aback for a second as a look of rage flashed through his eyes, but there were many other emotions as well, though they were too fast for her to pick up. Sorry, Naruto said, sagging in his seat a bit as a concerned Ayame brought him another bowl of ramen. Please just drop it. Anko sighed. Well, I suppose I can. She looked over at him with a smirk, trying to get a lighter mood in the atmosphere, but only because you're my favorite, Gaki. Naruto gave her a smile. Thanks, Anko. Finishing up his ramen, Naruto paid for his meal. I'll see you later, Anko, he said, tossing a wave over his shoulder. Anko once again frowned. There was something wrong with Naruto. Normally she would not bother with something like this, but she was concerned by the way he had acted. She was going to find out what was wrong with him. 1 month later, Naruto turned around and grinned as he saw Haku walk into the clearing. Hey Haku-chan. How are you doing? He blinked when he noticed that her chest was decidedly larger than last time. Haku, noticing where he was looking, blushed and, despite being fully clothed, covered her chest. You know, it's kind of embarrassing when you look at me like that. Huh? Naruto looked at her face before his eyes widened as his face took on the hue of a tomato. I'm so sorry. I was surprised because of yesterday and all. And Haku giggled as Naruto got completely flustered. It's okay, I suppose it would be surprising. I usually wear chest bindings to hide them. Oh, Naruto said in realization. So about we start again? He asked sheepishly. How are you doing? Haku brought a hand to her mouth as she giggled from Naruto's behavior. I'm doing well, thank you. And what about you? Did you have a nice sleep? I am sorry. She gave him a brilliant smile. Know that even if I can't go with you, I will always love you. And with that she disappeared in a burst of speed. Haku, Naruto mumbled, staring wide-eyed at the spot that Haku had left from. Haku. Naruto shot up in his bed, his eyes wide and his breathing far heavier than it should have been for something like sleeping, or even training. He pressed a hand to his face and closed his eyes. His face, and most likely his entire body, was covered in sweat. It was that dream again. The same one he had been having since the battle at the bridge. How many times have I had this nightmare? 31? I've had this nightmare every night since Haku-chan's death. Naruto shook his head and looked around, his eyes blurry and unfocused because of the tears that were in them. Turning his head, Naruto looked at the clock. 5:30 a.m. That's earlier than the last time I woke up from this nightmare. Was it yesterday? The blonde wondered. I doubt I'll be going back to sleep now, Naruto mumbled before sighing and getting up. He headed into the bathroom, taking off his boxers on the way. Closing the door behind him, Naruto walked towards the shower, turning on the water. As soon as the seal on the shower head sensed the pressure, it began to glow with a soft green light as it began to use the ambient nature chakra around the village to heat the water. Stepping in, Naruto groaned as he stepped into the shower. Pressing his hands against the wall, Naruto hunched over, letting the water hit his back. He stayed that way for nearly an hour, trying to soothe his frayed emotions. After a while he stepped out of the shower, grabbed a towel and went back into his room. He looked out of his window as he changed into his shinobi clothing. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting a light golden red glow across the sky. I guess I'll just start doing my own training. Naruto frowned as he tried to think of what he should do. I suppose I could try to improve my elemental affinity. I'll have to come up with my own exercises though. Cutting a leaf doesn't seem to be doing anything anymore. He shrugged off his thoughts and decided to wait until he got to the training ground to figure out what to do. Hiya! Naruto gave a loud shout as he brought his bow staff onto the head of one of the giant spiders in the Forest of Death, lacing his staff with wind chakra and using it as a bludgeoning factor to smash the spider's head. It was late in the afternoon and Naruto had been in the Forest of Death for nearly 3 hours already, fighting any of the animals and plants he could find. Most of the time he would take on the spiders, however, since they were more numerous than the others and bred like rabbits, though he had also scuffled with a few of the tigers. He jumped back just as another spider came in and tried to impale him with its legs. Naruto thrust out his hand and used a freeform wind blade to slice into the creature's eyes. It was something new he was working on, using freeform wind attacks rather than ninjutsu. It was a theory he came up with, that if his control over wind was good enough, he would not need hand seals to use a jutsu and instead rely on pure manipulation of the element. Though since it didn't kill the spider, or even get close to killing it, he knew it would require a lot of work to complete. Still, the creature reared its head back and let out a pained screech. Using the distraction, Naruto closed the distance and slammed his staff into the spider's now unprotected belly. He used wind chakra to enhance the amount of blunt force trauma done from the blow, cracking the creature's carapace and also sending it flying off the tree branch and into the forest below. Seeing several more of the creatures coming towards him, Naruto put his staff away and began doing hand seals. There were a lot more hand seals than usual, about 50 all total, since this was his most powerful wind jutsu and one he had just recently learned. Fuuten, Kamikaze no Jutsu, Divine Wind Jutsu. A huge gale force of cutting winds shot out from Naruto, slicing anything that got within its perimeter apart. Said perimeter was fairly small, being about 30 feet, since he did not have much control over the technique. And the winds could not cut all the way through the trees. However, the spiders that had been about to get near him got diced up just fine. Naruto panted a bit as he looked around the clearing, and noticed that the area was officially spider-free. He nodded to himself as he replayed the effects of the jutsu in his mind, trying to see where he needed to improve. You know, that's a pretty nasty jutsu. Naruto whirled around to see Anko standing on a branch several meters above him, her arms crossed under her breasts and a rare serious expression on her face. "Anko," Naruto greeted, "something I can help you with?" Anko jumped off the branch she was on and landed next to Naruto. "You can start by telling me why you're avoiding me." Naruto stiffened a bit but otherwise maintained his composure. "I haven't been avoiding you. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't give me that crap, Gaki," Anko scowled at him. "I tried finding you in your usual training field, and all of your clones told me you're not there. I tried searching for you in the Forest of Death before, but you never showed yourself. Hell, I even went up to Training Ground 9 to see the spandex-wearing wonders and that little chick you seem to be fond of. You weren't there either." Anko leaned into him with a threatening gaze. "I haven't been able to find you for an entire month. And it was only luck I ran into now, so why don't you tell me why you're avoiding me, or I swear the next thing you'll feel is are my snakes biting your ass." I can't." Naruto shook his head, not wanting to break down again. He had done that more than enough times in Nami no Kuni and did not want to do it now. Anko sighed in annoyance. "Damn it, Gaki, you know how frustrating you are sometimes." Naruto turned his back to her and was about to walk off when Anko spoke again. "You know, I talked with the Sandaime." Naruto stiffened. "He told me about your last mission. Look, I don't blame you for being all hurt and whatnot. Fuck, I'd probably all hurt if all that shit happened to me too. But this is the world we live in, and you need to move the fuck on, or quit being a shinobi." Naruto turned to her, his lips set in a thin line. "You went behind my back to get this info on me? Because I was worried about you, Gaki." Anko defended herself, not believing that the kid was actually getting angry at her. "Because you haven't been talking to me or anyone else for an entire month. You've been avoiding everyone like the plague. Even that scarecrow Kakashi is getting worried, and that's saying something." Naruto winced a little bit at that, but his face reset its scowl soon after. "I don't have to answer to you. You're not my..." He stopped, finding that he could not say mother. He didn't even know who his own mother was, much less what having one would be like. He shook his head and started again. "You're not my boss, so I don't have to answer you." He turned around to leave, but several snakes wrapped around him and lifted him off the ground. "Hey! What the fuck? Let me go, you crazy bitch!" Naruto shouted as he tried to get himself loose. It didn't work as the snakes constricted, making him lose his breath and wince in pain as his ribs creaked and compressed in on themselves. They brought Naruto back around so that he was facing a very angry Anko. "You better damn well believe you're answering to me." Anko's snakes brought Naruto so close that their noses were almost touching. To anyone else it probably would have almost seemed intimate. But with the snakes crushing his ribs, Anko's eyes glaring at him in anger, and the sound of her teeth grinding, Naruto knew that was not the case. "I may not have been friends with you for long, but we are friends, and if you don't tell me what's wrong so I can fix it, I swear Kami as my fucking witness I will beat the shit out of you." Naruto tried to laugh but it came out somewhere between a chuckle, a sob, and a pain groan. Naruto shook his head. Sighing, Anko put Naruto back on the ground and her snakes dispersed. "Gaki, I already told you I know what happened. You need to learn to move on." I get that you fell in love with this chick, I understand that. But seriously, you need to let it go and move on. I don't want to let it go. Naruto growled as he looked up, his tears no longer able to contain themselves. Haku-chan was the only person who ever showed me any love. She gave me more happiness than I thought I would ever get. Even after she learned about the damn fox in my gut. So you're saying I don't care about you? Asked Anko in a mild voice. That's completely different and you know it. Naruto countered. You're right, it is different, Anko said with a shrug. But that doesn't mean I don't care. I've accepted you, nine-tailed fuzzy and all right? But that apostrophe s.I. Naruto looked down at his feet as he shook his head. I don't want to lose anyone precious to me ever again. So you're going to push us away? Anko asked in an incredulous tone. Do you realize how stupid you sound right now? I thought you were smart. Naruto grit his teeth. That's not. And if you don't want to lose others who are important to you, then that just means you need to get stronger, Anko continued. That's the question I think you really need to ask yourself is what you think Haku would want you to do, Anko said. Her voice was far more quiet than normal, showing just how serious she was. I think you're so afraid of someone replacing your memory of this Haku girl that you're trying to distance yourself from others so you don't get over her. Naruto winced, mostly because Anko had hit the nail right on the head. While Anko was the first female to be nice to him, and Tenten was actually the first friend his age, neither of them had given him what Haku had, and he felt like he would be betraying her memory if he allowed himself to get close to either of them. Do you think Haku would want you to be like this? From what you told the Sun Daime, she would probably stick you with Senbone or something, Anko said. Naruto in spite of himself let out a small laugh, even though it was strained. Yeah, I suppose she would. Now are you gonna be all Uchiha Ima brooder on me? Asked Anko. I wasn't that bad, Naruto defended himself, only to stop at the deadpan look Anko was giving him. Okay, so maybe I was a little emo there. Kid, I think I saw a brood of fangirls following you on your way here because they mistook you for the Uchiha, Anko said, grinning as he scowled. His scowl gave way to a smile as he surprised Anko and gave her a hug. Thanks Anko Ne-chan. Since when am I a Ne-chan? Asked Anko in an embarrassed voice. Since now, Naruto mumbled as he gripped her tighter. Despite her lack of moral scruples, Anko blushed in embarrassment at the fact that someone was calling her Ne-chan. Having been alone most of her life after Orochimaru abandoned her, she was not used to others being this close to her when it was not her messing with someone. Even more embarrassing was that Naruto had called her Ne-chan, essentially stating she was close enough to be considered his family, an honor only her friend Yuhi Kurenai ever gave her. It's alright Gaki, Anko patted him on the back and tried to play it cool. They stayed like that for a while until the snake mistress of Konoha began to relax, which was a few seconds before Naruto decided to ruin the moment. Who knew that Konoha's snake bitch was such a softie, Naruto said with an unseen grin. Kid, if you tell anyone about this I swear I'll feed you to my snakes, Anko threatened, actually feeling the blonde's mind turning. You're no fun, Naruto pouted as he pulled away. I bet people would really change their opinions of you if they realized you had such a soft, ooey gooey center on the inside. Gaki, I'm warning you, Anko threatened. In fact, maybe I should tell Kakashi just how soft you really are. Naruto grinned as he finally saw Anko blush. Meanwhile, Anko cursed at herself for ever thinking that teaching the Gaki about the birds and the bees was a good idea. Gaki, you better start running, Anko warned, her hair overshadowing her face. Cause I'm gonna feed you to my snakes. Feeling revitalized from his talk with Anko, Naruto just grinned as he took off. You'll have to catch me first. You fucking brat. Kushios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. There was a giant puff of smoke and Naruto suddenly found a very irate Anko on a very large snake chasing him. Sick'em Sasha. Eat the bastard alive. Knowing that Anko might actually have her summon eat him, he took off even faster than before, dropping his resistance seals and weights. Without looking back he blasted through the forest, Anko hot on his heels. The next day, it was Saturday in the afternoon when Naruto entered the Higurashi weapons store. He noticed with some relief mixed in with disappointment that Tenten wasn't there. Disappointment because he missed her, and relief because he had no desire to get any kunai or senbone stuck in his ass. Instead, her father Kaido was sitting at the register. Said man looked up as soon as the door chimed. Naruto. He greeted, standing up and moving over the blonde. How have you been? I've been good, Kaido-san, Naruto replied with a small bow of his head. You know, I haven't seen you in my store for quite a while. The comment was made casually enough, but Naruto sensed an underlying meaning that made him shiver. My daughter has been awfully worried about you for the past month. Naruto winced, I was having some personal issues that kept me from others. Kaido looked at him for a moment before giving a nod of understanding. I suggest you speak with her sometime soon. Alright, Naruto said, slightly intimidated by the man's stare. As if summoned by their conversation, Tenten walked right into the door. Dad? I'm home from. She trailed off as her eyes landed on Naruto. You. She stomped over to him. Naruto paled and began to back up as Tenten began poking him in the chest. I haven't seen you for over a month. And you're just coming in here now, when I'm not working. Naruto found himself backed up against the wall with nowhere to go as Tenten continued poking him. Thankfully there were no weapons on this one or he was sure this would have been painful. I had to find out that you had returned from some lady named Anko because she had been looking for you. Do you know how worried I was when I found out that you were essentially ignoring me? Tenten Naruto tried but Tenten cut him off. Don't you try to talk your way out of this, Uzumaki Naruto. You have a lot of making up to do for getting me so worried. Tenten placed her hands on her hips and glared at him. Well. You Naruto felt sweat trickle down his forehead as he stared at those angry brown eyes. He had no idea that Tenten could be even scarier than Anko at times. Well, what do you want me to do to make it up to you? Tenten frowned for a second before smiling. Naruto instantly paled as he recognized that smile from the one time he had let her use ranged weapons during a spar. Kami saved me, Naruto mumbled, crying anime tears as Tenten began dragging him to a training ground. Fuuten, Kamikaze no Jutsu, Wind Release, Divine Wind Jutsu - a rank elemental jutsu. The user creates thousands of wind blades around themselves before sending them flying with a gust of wind around the user's entire body. The amount of blades and cutting power behind the jutsu depends on the amount of control the user has. Used for area-wide destruction when surrounded by a large amount of enemies. Kushios no Jutsu, Summoning Jutsu, rank varies depending on size of the summon. When a human signs a contract with the summoning animals, it binds them to that clan of summons. By drawing one's own blood and going through a set of hand seals, the user is capable of summoning creatures from giant frogs, to snakes, slugs, salamanders and more. The type of creature summoned depends on the contract signed, snakes for the snake contract, toads for the toad contract, etc. 2 months later, Tajuu Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Naruto watched as a massive cloud of smoke erupted in the clearing. When it cleared, Naruto nodded as he saw 300 clones standing around and awaiting orders. Alright, I want 100 of you to begin working on our wind affinity. Since we haven't been able to find a waterfall with a good ledge to stand on, I want you to start cutting a rock using wind chakra. When you manage to split a rock down the middle, try cutting a rock into 4 pieces and increase the number of cuts you can make from there. It had been one of the new wind exercises he had come up with for himself. Naruto had read that the next step after cutting a leaf was to cut a waterfall. Since there were no waterfalls that he had found that could be properly utilized for his wind training, he had decided to refine his cutting ability through other means. The first thing he had done was make shapes in the leaves that he would cut. Simple ones at first, squares, circles and the like, and then more complex shapes like animals and people. This was the next training method Naruto had invented that he felt would be another good step in his wind elemental training. He had actually gotten the general idea from a book he had read. It was a much older book that he had found when looking for theories on connecting to one's chakra through meditation exercises. The book he had found, which was a book from Suna on some of the older methods of wind manipulation theories, have claimed that a master of the wind element should be able to cut straight through a boulder using wind chakra. Not only that, but the cut would be so smooth that the entire surface on either side would be completely flat. He had at first tried to cut a boulder, but soon realized that with the level of his wind manipulation such a complex and difficult task was next to impossible. So he went on to the next best thing, cutting a rock, which he felt that while not as good, would still be a major boon in his elemental training. After all, if he could cut a rock into several pieces, then it should be much easier to cut flesh and bones. Boss. The clones all saluted and took off. Naruto turned to his other 2 groups. I want one group of you to split up into groups of 25. One of you will continue on the more advanced form of Muay Thai, another work on Goken, the third group will work on our Buchatsu, and the last will try to combine the taijutsu styles we know into a usable form. Yosh. The clones all gave him the nice guy pose before they went off and began working with a Guy-and-Lee-like fanaticism. Turning to the last group, Naruto began to give his last set of orders. You guys have the most important task of all? I want you to continue working on our chakra control. His chakra control had gotten better but was still, and probably always would be, an issue that he would need to constantly work on. We've gotten up to 5 leaves on one hand, so start adding leaves to the other. I want at least 2 added by the end of this session. And rather than stand on the water's surface, I want you to walk. Got it, boss? The clone said as they raced off. Naruto looked down at his arm, where his training seal was located. Right now it was on level 3, a feat the whiskered blonde had managed to accomplish around 3 weeks ago. Due to the massive increase in resistance that each level came with, it had taken a lot more time for him to be capable of using the third level of resistance than the first two. However, like with all things, time, sweat and hard work had finally enabled him to use this level with no required chakra. And since he no longer needed chakra, that meant it was time to increase the level. Gritting his teeth, Naruto began channeling chakra into the seal, feeling the resistance on his body increase. He watched as the kanji on his arm shifted from the number 3 to the number 4. With the seal increase finished, Naruto began to trudge through his workout routine, relying heavily on chakra to keep him moving as he fought against the resistance placed on his body. After his daily workout, Naruto began to make his way towards Team 7's standard meeting spot. Walking onto the bridge where his team usually met, Naruto saw that his two teammates were both already there doing what they usually did. Sakura was staring at Sasuke, no doubt wondering how to get a date with the raven-haired Uchiha. And Sasuke was leaning against the rail of the bridge, staring off into space, or as Naruto called it, practicing his brooding poses and trying to come up with ways to kill his older brother. "Morning, Sakura, Sasuke team," he greeted the pair. Even if they did not really get along all that well, he still felt it was appropriate to be nice to them. At least on the occasions he did not feel like messing with them. Sasuke looked at Naruto before giving his usual reply of "HN," and then turning away to look off the side of the bridge. "Naruto baka, don't call Sasuke-kun that," Sakura shouted at the blonde. Thankfully she no longer tried to punch him, having realized that he was no longer going to put up with it. Something she had actually started to get bitter about, which really only increased her anger at the blonde. Naruto sighed as he moved to the opposite side his teammates were on. He had thought that they would have bonded at least a little bit after their A-rank mission. However, as soon as they got back to Konoha, it was the same as always. Sasuke, having gotten his Sharingan sometime during the Battle of the Bridge, had started ignoring him and everyone else and was quite possibly even more arrogant than before. It also didn't help that the few times he had not ignored the blonde was merely to either glare at him or try and goad him into a fight. Sakura of course had not changed at all, since she had not really played any significant role on the battle in Nami, or the mission in general, and had more or less taken a back seat to the whole thing and was not even conscious during the blonde's Kyuubified rampage. Naturally, because of this, she had not been as affected as the others were, whether it be mentally, emotionally or physically. So she still basically ignored Naruto unless he said something bad about her Sasuke-kun. The only difference now was that she no longer tried to hit him. Sitting down, the blonde pulled out 2 books. The first was the book he had been reading on Fuuin Jutsu created by the Yondaime, titled Intermediate Ceiling Level 3. The second one was a book of his own creation, holding all of the notes he had written down from this book and previous ones he had read, as well as the few notes on seals he had gotten from some of the more advanced books when he could not find something he was looking for in the previous ones. For the next half an hour he began comparing and writing down more notes. "Yo!" Naruto looked up to see Kakashi appear in his standard sunshine. "You're late," Sakura yelled as she pointed at him. "Sorry, I forgot to set my alarm today, so I woke up late," Kakashi replied with a lazy tone. Sakura's face turned red as she listened to her sensei's lame excuse. "Where?" Naruto put his book away and stood up with a small sigh as he stretched and listened to his back make a satisfying crack. He was so glad he had made more cage bunshines to train while he waited for his sensei, otherwise he would never be able to get all of his training done. "So what are we doing today, sensei?" he asked. Kakashi gave Naruto a nice smile. "I'm glad you asked, Naruto. We have an exciting mission today, so let's get going." Team 7 left the Hokage's tower after completing the mission the Hokage had given them. It was really nothing more than walking the Inuzuka dogs while another team cleaned the kennels. Not much of a mission in the 3 Genin's opinions, but there was not much they could do about it. Kakashi had refused to go on another C rank since their mission to Nami no Kuni had been what could be considered one huge clusterfuck. And so ever since the mission to protect Tazuna, these kinds of missions had been all they were doing. At least Kakashi had helped him a little more on his training. It wasn't much since Sasuke had activated his Sharingan. Usually the silver-haired Jonin would simply create a cage bunshine and have it spar with Naruto. Still, it was more than he had gotten before the mission, and since he had yet to even land a hit on the clone, it was good enough for the moment. "Man, I can't believe we're stuck doing these boring-ass missions again," Naruto groaned, his disposition having gone back to being his normal chipper self after his talk with Anko. For the most part at least, There were of course times when the blonde would get quiet and introspective, and sometimes a small flicker of the painful emotions he had felt after Haku's death flashed across his eyes. But he was determined to continue pushing forward as he was sure that Haku would stick his ass with Senbone if they met in the afterlife and she found out he had been moping around after her death. That, and he wanted to be a person that Haku would be proud of, a person who would give their all to protect the people precious to them. At least we didn't have to clean the kennel, Naruto thought with a sigh. I don't know if my nose could have handled it again. Now Naruto, we can't do a C-rank mission every time, there are protocols we have to follow, you know, Kakashi chided as he flipped a page of his book. I know the protocols, damn it. I've read all the Kami-forsaken books that talk about the requirements necessary to tackle higher-ranked missions, as well as why Genin are normally assigned these pathetic D ranks in the first place. Naruto glared at his sensei as the man giggled perversely, seemingly ignoring him. We have twice the prerequisite number for a higher-ranked mission. We've been doing these D ranks for 3 months. I think you're just too damn lazy to go on a mission that would take us out of the village. This statement definitely rang true. While Kakashi may be more helpful now than he was before the mission to protect Tazuna, the man was still one of the laziest people he had ever met, barring Shikamaru. Shut up Naruto baka, Sakura yelled, angry that her blonde teammate was interrupting her from her Sasuke watching with all his complaining. This coming from the girl who likes to screech when she talks. Naruto ignored the pathetic excuse for killing intent coming from Sakura. I bet even the team over there wants a better mission, Naruto pointed to Sasuke. You see? He's just dying for some kind of action, Naruto said. Team, you're a riveting conversationalist. Whatever, Sakura scoffed before turning to her crush with what she hoped was a cute yet coy expression. I'm so glad today's mission is over, aren't you Sasuke-kun? Sasuke just glanced at her at the corner of his eyes, before turning around and ignoring her, not even deigning to give the girl his standard one-syllable grunt. Sakura put her head down for a second before trying to brighten up. Say Sasuke-kun, would you like to go out on a date with me? Sasuke grunted as he turned to face her. Why would I want to date a weak little girl like you? Sakura took a step back as her eyes widened in surprise and hurt. If you've got time to be asking me out on a date, then you should use that time to become stronger. The raven-haired Genin turned away. Even Naruto has gotten better than you. You're even more useless than he used to be. Sakura tried to say, a depressed look on her face and tears beginning to form in her eyes. However, Sasuke had already started ignoring her and was walking away. Naruto looked up from his book to see what had happened before sighing and going back to his book. While he did not really approve of Sasuke being so harsh, even if he no longer put up with Sakura trying to hit him for every little thing, he knew that she still did not know what it meant to be a ninja and needed some kind of kick in the ass in order to get herself in gear. Walking behind the group, book in hand, was Kakashi, who was watching the group with an expression of concern, not that anyone could see it due to nearly 3/4 of his face being covered. It seems their teamwork has gotten even worse than before. It's almost as if the mission to Nami never happened. Sakura yells at Naruto and tries to get a date with Sasuke, completely neglecting training outside of the team. Sasuke ignores everyone unless it's to glare at Naruto, or to pick a fight. I thought awakening his Sharingan would be a good thing, but he only seems to have gotten more arrogant. And Naruto? Kakashi glanced at his blonde student. I can't even tell what he's thinking anymore. He's gotten even more sarcastic than before and seems to run off at the mouth every chance he gets. Not only that, but he seems to have picked up a sadistic streak. Though, I'm sure I can thank Hanko for that, since the two seem to be hanging out even more now than they had before. The elite Jonin sighed, not really sure how to fix this problem. Looking up, he saw a hawk flying over Konoha. Okay, I think that's enough for today, Kakashi said, getting the attention of his 3 Genin. I have to go submit a mission report. Ja. With that, the duster-haired Jonin disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto watched as Kakashi disappeared within a sunshine. Turning around, he saw that Sasuke had already left, and Sakura was walking away with a depressed look on her face. I guess I'll go do some training of my own, Naruto decided. He was just about to start walking when he heard a noise. Turning around, he saw a square box behind him with a rock texture painted on it. It also had 2 eye holes in the front. Already knowing who was under that box, Naruto just sighed and began to walk away, hearing the box follow after him as he turned a corner. When the box followed, it stopped, not seeing the whiskered marked blonde anywhere. Konohamaru-kun, where did the boss go? Asked a female voice from the box. I don't know, it's like he disappeared, Konohamaru exclaimed. They were just about to lift the box up when Naruto appeared behind them. Grinning, he sat down on them, listening to their muffled grunts and shouts of surprise. Hey, who's on top of us? Get off. I think my glasses broke. What's going on? Naruto chuckled, you know, if you keep using these shitty-ass disguises you'll never get the upper hand on me. Ha. I'm not surprised you saw through our disguise, boss. Came Konohamaru's muffled response, now can you get off? I suppose, Naruto said as he stood up and moved to the front as the box exploded. Cough, I think we used too much gunpowder. Cough, came a nasally voice. Naruto gave the kids a nonchalant look that would have made Kakashi proud. So what do you guys want? The three kids looked up at him before they broke into their introduction. Hey, I'm Moegi, and I'm the sassiest kunoichi in school. The girl with orange pigtails and perpetual blush said as she made an odd pose, standing on one leg and raising a single hand in the air. And I like algebra, I'm Udon, said the boy with the bowl cut, glasses and permanent runny nose. He too took a pose beside Moegi, crouching down low and crossing his arms. And I'm the strongest ninja in the village, Konohamaru said as he made a pose in front of them, grinning as he pointed a thumb at himself. And together we're the Konohamaru Ninja Corps. The three said in unison. Yeah, I know, you guys have done this like 30 times already. This month alone, Naruto said, crossing his arms as he looked at the trio. So what do you want? You promised you'd play ninja with us today, boss, Konohamaru stated as he crossed his arms. Naruto looked up at the sky, tapping his chin in thought. Did I? I don't remember saying anything like that. You did, boss. Come on, please play ninja with us. The three started giving him the puppy dog eyes. You know, I've been giving that look to Oji-san before you three were even born, it won't work on me. Naruto grinned as he watched their crestfallen expressions. He actually rather liked the trio whom he had taken to calling the Chibi Brigade, they always seemed to brighten his day. But I suppose I've got enough time to play ninja with you. Ugh, a ninja playing ninja. The group turned to see an utterly depressed-looking Sakura walking towards them. That's so stupid, Naruto sighed at the girl's attitude. Even though he had been ignoring her to the best of his abilities, she was always like this, always making fun of or trying to belittle him for everything he did. I suppose Sasuke team just told her off again, the blonde concluded. She seemed to come over to make fun of him whenever Sasuke put her down, which happened every time she tried to get a date, meaning pretty much every day, seemingly seeking assurance from him like she used to. Hey boss, who is this? Asked Konohamaru as he looked at the girl, scratching the back of his head. I know. Hey boss, is she here? He trailed off as he held up his pinky finger and wiggled it. Sakura's look instantly turned irate, and if it wasn't for the fact that Naruto no longer let her hit him, she would have socked him so hard that the blonde would have been implanted in a wall. Naruto shook his head. No, Konohamaru, she isn't. In fact, we're not even friends. The closest thing I can call her is my teammate, and I use the term loosely since we don't really act like a team. For some reason the whiskered blonde's words seemed to depress Sakura even more. Sasuke-kun thought she was beneath him, and Naruto. And now Naruto was saying that she was basically just someone he worked with and not someone he liked, or even considered as a friend. I suppose what they say is true. You never know what you're missing until it's gone. She could no longer deny the fact that Naruto had been one of the main factors of her confidence back in the academy. Whenever something happened, whether it was Sasuke's continuous rejections, or something Ino or one of the other girls did or said, Naruto had always been there making her feel better about herself. Now he no longer cared about her, and so she no longer had the confidence-boosting factor to help her deal with the problems she had and her own self-confidence issues. This in turn brought her disposition down even more. Well, that's good, boss, 'cause you can seriously do better than this chick, Konohamaru said. I mean, just look at her. That pink hair is kind of weird, and can you see her forehead? It's huge. Naruto looked at Sakura nervously as he saw her now murderous expression. Hey Konohamaru, how fast can you run? Pretty fast, boss. Why? Asked Konohamaru as he scratched the back of his head. Naruto pointed over to Sakura, who was currently stomping over to them and cracking her knuckles. That's why. I suggest you start running. Konohamaru gulped as he saw the expression on Sakura's face as she cracked her knuckles. Thanks for the report, Iruka said to Kakashi as he sat in the missions room. He read over the report a bit before putting it away. He frowned for a moment as he looked up at the elite Jonin. So how is Naruto? Is he doing well with his comrades? Naruto is actually doing rather well. Kakashi replied. It was true enough, the boy had gotten better after the first month being back, both physically with his training and emotionally. Though he still wouldn't talk about his experience, he had started opening up more, and even asked Kakashi for advice in some of his training. That's good. I've been so busy lately that I haven't been able to see him since you guys got back from your C-ranked mission," Iruka said. "I'm a little worried." "I wouldn't worry about Naruto too much," Kakashi replied with the same air of nonchalance he always held. "Naruto's a little quieter since we came back from our C rank, but other than that he's doing fine. In fact, he's improved quite a bit. I think pretty soon he may even be strong enough to surpass the person he respects the most, you. Though I'm pretty sure he already has, but considering he asked me not to reveal anything about his skills to anyone, I'm not going to say anything." "Is that so?" Iruka asked with a grin, pleased to hear that Naruto was doing well. "Boss, what are we gonna do?" "It's right behind us," Konohamaru shouted as he, his three friends and Naruto ran. The young Sarutobi looked back to see Sakura still chasing after them, spurring him to run faster. "Well, why don't we just consider this training?" "Yeah. That's a good idea. This is a part of your training," Naruto said, not in the least bit tired or worried about the rampaging pink-haired girl behind him. "Training?" Konohamaru yelled as he looked behind him. He paled as he saw the pink-haired demon getting closer. "How can this be considered training?" "Why, we're testing your speed and endurance, of course," Naruto said with a laugh. "Now run faster." Konohamaru did run faster, passing the others as he turned around a corner and continued running, right until he smashed into someone and fell down to the ground. "Ow!" Konohamaru rubbed his face as he tried to rub away the stinging sensation. After a couple of seconds he looked up to see what he had run into, and saw that it was a guy wearing a black jumpsuit with a pair of cat ears on his head, and some kind of odd makeup on his face with an odd oblong-shaped thing on his back, wrapped in bandages. Next to him stood a girl with sandy blonde hair done up in 4 pigtails. She was wearing a black and white battle kimono with some mesh leggings on her left ankle, while the other was higher up on her thigh. She had her headband hanging loosely on her neck, and a red sash wrapped around her waist. There was also a large battle fan attached to her back. The headbands they were wearing was the symbol for Sunagaku no Sato, the village hidden in the sand, which was a ninja village allied to Konoha. "That hurt, you little punk," the teen wearing the cat ears said. Bending down he picked up Konohamaru by his scarf, forcing the kid to grab onto his hand. "I think I need to teach you a lesson about watching where you're going." The girl walked up behind him and shook her head in annoyance. "Kankura, just drop him. You know we're going to get in trouble if he shows up." "Relax, Temari. He won't show up for a while yet." Kankura looked back at her, before turning his attention back to Konohamaru. "Besides, this kid needs to learn not to disrespect his betters." "Put me down, you stupid makeup-wearing freak," Konohamaru yelled. "If you don't, my Nissan's gonna kick your ass." "It's war paint, you little shit," Kankura said with a snarl. "I'll teach you to mess with your betters." He was just about to hit Konohamaru when another voice spoke up. "You know, if you're trying to look threatening, you're doing a piss-poor job of it." The two looked up to see Naruto standing there, and despite the light, nearly conversational tone he spoke in, was glaring the Tsunagenon in the cat suit. A few seconds later Moigi, Udon and Sakura came up behind him and watched the small confrontation. Though that might have something to do with the makeup. "Now I suggest you put that boy down." Temari and Kankuro looked over at Naruto, one of them scowled while the other blushed. "Oh, looks like a local cutie," Temari eyed the blonde up and down. "These look like Leaf Shanan," Kankuro thought to himself with a small sneer. "Maybe I should play with him for a while instead." When Naruto did not receive the reply he was looking for from either of the Tsunagenon, he scowled. "Hey makeup boy. I said you might want to let him go. If you're not going to listen to me, perhaps I could persuade you better by putting my foot off in your ass." That seemed to get a reaction as Kankuro scowled and Temari giggled. "It's not makeup. It's war paint," Kankuro yelled out. Naruto grinned. "So says the transvestite walking around in a cat suit." "That does it," Kankuro said as he grit his teeth. He tossed Konohamaru away and reached behind his back to the large mummified-looking object. Naruto disappeared in a burst of speed as he rushed behind the young Sarutobi and caught Konohamaru, setting the boy down before he turned to glare on Kankuro. Sarutobi looked at all the ninja who had assembled into his spy room where all the meetings of great importance were held. Many of them were jonin for the Jonin teams, however there were also a few chunin who would be serving as proctors, as well as the few jonin who would proctor for the event he had called them for. "I'm sure you are all wondering why I have called you here," the aging Sandaime said. "You've all assembled for one reason. It should be obvious by some of the members here. So it's that time already, eh?" Kakashi asked rhetorically. "It's already been reported to the other countries. I saw some of them in the village." Genma, a Tokubetsu jonin wearing standard jonin clothes, a bandana-style headband, and a senbon in his mouth commented. Kurenai decided to ask the obvious question, so when is it? In a week, Sarutobi announced, causing several members to mumble about it starting sooner than they expected. I'll announce it properly 7 days from now. On the first day of the 7th moon, the Chunin selection exams will commence. Sarutobi frowned for a moment before pressing on. Before we get to the announcement on who will be participating among our teams, I have some information I wish to tell you. It seems that both Suna and Kumo have sent a Jinchuriki here to participate in the exams. This caused a lot of the ninja there to burst in outrage. Many saying it was not fair for nations to send such monsters into the exams. A burst of killing intent from Sarutobi shut them up. While I can understand how you feel about having such powerful ninja in the exams, I would suggest you refrain from speaking about them in that way. He stressed the word ninja when he spoke, making his opinion on Jinchuriki known and telling them he would not tolerate people giving into their irrational hatred. In any event, it is not illegal for a Jinchuriki to participate in the exams, so long as they are a registered Jinan. So there is nothing any of us can do about it. I merely informed you so that you are aware of what your Jinan will be up against in the exams. How accurate is this information, Hokage-sama? Asked Kakashi. I received the information several days ago via Jiraiya's spy network, Sarutobi said. He had only just managed to get a hold of the man because of it, something that irked the Sun Daime even though there was nothing he could do about the man's elusiveness at the moment. Sarutobi took a long puff on his pipe before continuing. Now, I would like to hear from those who are watching over the new Jinan first. Kakashi, Kurenai and Asuma stepped forward. Kakashi was on the right, with Kurenai in the middle and Asuma on the left. Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma well? Sarutobi asked. Are there any Jinan you would like to enter into this year's Chunin selection exam? I don't believe I have to tell you, but after a Jinan completes a total of at least 32 missions, he or she is eligible for the Chunin exams. Of course normally a Jinan needs more than 4 times that number of missions before being considered for selection, but it is your choice. Now, starting with Kakashi. Kakashi kept up his normal lazy composure as he began speaking. The Kakashi led Team 7, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto under the name of Hatake Kakashi. I nominate them to take the Chunin selection exams. This caused a load of mutters to spread out among the other ninja. Being in the middle, Kurenai went next. The Kurenai led Team 8, Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba and Aburame Shino under the name Yuhi Kurenai. I nominate my team for the Chunin selection exams. Asuma sighed as he took a puff of his cigarette before speaking. The Asuma led Team 10, Yamanaka Ino, Narashi Kamaru and Akimichi Kuji under the name Sarutobi Asuma. I nominate my team for the Chunin selection exams. The mutterings got even louder at hearing all 3 Jonin leaders for the new Jinan had nominated their teams, something that had not happened in decades. However, one person had something to say about this. Hold on just a second. Iruka stepped forward. Sarutobi looked at the scarred Chunin. What is it, Iruka? Hokage-sama, please let me have a word. I may be speaking out of place, but these 9 Jinan were all my students at the academy. Of course they are all very talented, but it's still far too early for them to take the exam. They need more experience. I just can't understand their reasoning. Especially with 2 Jinchuriki coming to the exams. I became a Chunin when I was 6 years younger than Naruto, Kakashi said, knowing who Iruka was really worried about. Naruto is nothing like you, Iruka shouted, making his true worry obvious. Are you trying to crush these kids? The Chunin exam coup, are you saying you don't have faith in Naruto's talents? Asked Kakashi, interrupting the Chunin from his tangent. Iruka's eyes widened. That's. While Naruto may not be quite like me, he is an extremely talented shinobi that has even impressed me at times, Kakashi continued. Several eyes widened and a smattering of mumbles accompanied this announcement. It was obvious no one believed this statement, whether because of Naruto's status as the dead last, or the QB, Kakashi did not know nor care. Actually, it makes one wonder. He had always been considered the dead last, but ever since he had graduated his skills have skyrocketed thanks to getting one-on-one help. I have to question the competence of the academy staff for having neglected Naruto like they had. If he had received more help in the beginning, he may have already been a Chunin by now, possibly even a Jonin. Iruka winced at hearing that Naruto had progressed far faster now that he was out of the academy. He felt guilty about not helping the blonde until the day before he graduated, and if what Kakashi just said was true, then the blonde could already have been one of their most powerful ninja by now. Kakashi continued after giving people a few minutes to digest this new information. While I understand that you're worried, you have to understand that they are no longer under your control. That's enough, Kakashi, Kurenai said in an annoyed tone. No, it's not, Kakashi stated, And while his tone still sounded as lazy as always, there was a harder edge to it. "They are no longer your students, Iruka, they are my soldiers." "Enough," Sarutobi said, stemming any further argument from the pair. "Iruka, I understand where you're coming from, but Kakashi is right. It is not your decision to decide whether or not they can compete." Iruka looked down in frustration, but he knew that the Sandaime was right. "I apologize for stepping out of line, Hokage-sama." "Good. Now on to the next nominations. You're going to use Karasu here?" asked a surprised Temari. "These brats need to be taught a lesson, Temari," Kankuro replied as he began to unravel the bandages. Before he could get too far, a rock hit him in the hand, making him drop the large object. Looking up, Sasuke glaring down at him, tossing another rock up and down in his hand. "Great, another one of these brats shows up," Kankuro growled. "Oh wow, it looks like Konoha has quite a monopoly on cuties," Temari thought as she looked between Naruto and Sasuke with a light blush. "Get lost, creep," Sasuke crushed the rock in his hand. Naruto rolled his eyes. "You're such a show-off team," Kankuro growled as he held his now injured hand. He looked like he was about to continue making an ass of himself, when a new voice spoke up behind Sasuke. "Kankuro, stop it." Everyone stiffened in surprise and turned their heads to see a boy with red hair and the kanji for love on his forehead. He was wearing a black short-sleeve shirt with a fishnet undershirt underneath that, along with matching black pants and sandals. Across his waist was a white sash and a brown leather belt, and another sash going across his chest that held a large gourd to his back. However, the thing that caught Naruto's attention the most were the large bags under his eyes, making him look something akin to a raccoon. "Jigara," Kankuro stammered as he began to shake in fear. The blonde-haired girl did not seem to be doing much better. "I didn't even notice him behind me." Sasuke's eyes widened a bit as he stared at the redhead. "That kind of skill is at the level of a jonin like Kakashi. Odd, this kid is leaking killer intent like some kind of homicidal maniac, yet I couldn't sense him until he spoke." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the familiar feel of the Suna ninja's killing intent. "There's something familiar about this one. I sense a presence I have not felt since." He shook his head. "Damn it, I need to stop watching Star Wars." "Kankuro, you're an embarrassment to our village. Have you forgotten why we came here?" Gaara's arms remained crossed as he stared the other Genin down. Kankuro paled considerably as he tried to stammer out an excuse. "Well, you see, Gaara, they started it and I shut up," interrupted the redhead, "or I'll kill you." Right, I was totally out of line," Kankuro stuttered. Gaara disappeared in a swirl of sand, reappearing in between the blonde girl and Kankuro. He looked over at Naruto and increased his killing intent in an effort to frighten the blonde-haired Genin, though he ended up raising an eyebrow when Naruto shrugged it off. "My apologies for him being such a nuisance," he apologized eventually. Naruto gave a grin. "May, it's all good. Though I would suggest you keep him on a leash, seeing as how he almost beat up the Hokage's grandson. Wars have started for less after all." Kankuro paled at the new knowledge, knowing he was going to get in trouble for doing something like this with their sensei. "I'll be sure to keep that in mind." Gaara looked over at his two companions. "Kankuro, Temari, we're leaving." As the three ninja left, Sakura decided to make her presence known. "Hold on a second." The three Suna ninja turned around to look at the pink-haired girl. "While it's true that Suna and Konoha are allies, it's illegal for you to be in our nation without permission. So I have to ask, what are you doing in our village?" "Ugh, you're so clueless," Naruto groaned, making everyone turn to him. "It's obvious they're here for the Chunin exams, or have you not noticed all of the foreign ninja who have been coming into Konoha recently?" Sakura's face turned red with anger at having Naruto tell her up like that. The pinkhead had been constantly upstaged by the blonde so far every time she had tried to say something smart. It was like he was trying to make her look bad in front of Sasuke-kun. She would have yelled at him, but Temari spoke up. "The blonde cutie is correct." She pulled out her passport. "We are here for the Chunin exams. You really should pay more attention, or people will think you live under a rock. We've wasted enough time talking, let's go," Gaara said, getting annoyed by all the conversation. "Hold on. What's your name?" Sasuke asked the retreating figure. Who, me?" asked Temari with a light blush. "Not you, the one with the gourd on his back," Sasuke corrected. "My Sasuke, have you finally found someone who matches your wet dreams?" Naruto asked with a grin. "I always did wonder if you were into guys." "Don't call Sasuke-kun gay, Naruto baka," Sakura shouted in anger, though on the inside she felt mortified at the thought that her Sasuke-kun might actually be into men. "Oh no! What if he really is gay? Of course he isn't gay." That's just Naruto Baka trying to get us to like him instead. Shanaro. The ever-delusional inner Sakura shouted. Dobi, Sasuke hissed through clenched teeth and a red face to match his anger and embarrassment. This had been something that had been happening more and more recently. Naruto seemed to have made a game out of taunting either him or Sakura, taking some kind of innate pleasure out of torturing them with words. It was something that pissed the raven-haired Jonan off to no end. Naruto smirked. What? You can't blame me for thinking that. All those girls in the academy threw themselves at you, and you completely ignored them. He gave a shrug. What am I supposed to think? Grinning, the blonde turned his attention to Temari. I apologize for my teammate being such an ass. He just doesn't know how to properly treat such a beautiful woman. Temari blushed, not actually used to someone calling her beautiful, or having the guts to do it in front of Gaara. It's alright. Naruto tilted his head to side as he saw Temari's face turn red. For a moment he wondered if he had said something wrong. Since his only real experience with women were Tenten, Anko, and Haku, one of which liked to think of herself as one of the guys, another who took pleasure in making him squirm and torturing/training him, and the last one being a girl whom he had only just started to explore his feelings for before she died, it left him somewhat lacking in the female knowledge department. Of course he did know a little bit about females, and was not completely unknowledgeable about flirting, since Anko had a tendency to tease him in a manner that could be considered flirting, while if trying to feed someone to their snakes, cuddling to them while rubbing their cheeks against his whisker marks, or pressing someone's face into their bosom was flirting. However, it was thanks to the experience he gained from the interactions he had with those three that he was able to determine that since she had not hit him and since she was smiling despite the redness on her cheeks, that he had not said anything wrong and may have actually done good by complimenting the girl on her looks. A small flash of pain crossed his eyes as he thought of Haku, and of the many times he had gotten that rosy color on her cheeks. Thankfully he was able to bury the small flash before anyone was able to see it. Now that we've determined my teammate's sexual preference, how about I get your name? It's Temari, Sabaku no Temari, she answered with a small tinge of pink still running across her cheeks. And you? Naruto grinned. Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara looked over at the blonde shinobi in curiosity before turning to Sasuke. It's Sabaku no Gaara. And yours? Sasuke smirked as he tried to get back on track. Uchiha Sasuke. I see. I hope to see you in the exams, Gaara replied before leaving, with his two teammates following him. Aw, it's so nice to see you finally found someone for yourself, Sasuke, or should I say Sasuke? Naruto commented, smirking as his two teammates turned and glared at him. What the hell, Dobi? Sasuke growled at him, his eyes morphing into his Sharingan in an attempt to scare or at least deter the blonde from his constant remarks on his sexuality. Don't be mad, team. I don't care if you're secretly in the closet or anything. Naruto grinned as he began walking away. Though, Sakura may be disappointed. Anyways, I think I'm going to get some Ichirakus, I'm starving. Whistling a jaunty tune, Naruto left his two angry teammates. A little ways away, three figures had just finished watching the confrontation. So what do you think? A figure asked as he leaned against a tree. One of his companions looked at him. They're nothing serious, although we'll need to keep an eye on that black-haired one, and the one with the gourd on his back. Sakura gave an annoyed grunt as she looked at the bridge she and her teammates were supposed to meet at today. Both Naruto and her sensei were late. Again. Really, she couldn't understand it. How could the person who had asked them to come at a certain time always be late? She glanced over at Sasuke to see him leaning against the rail, looking so cool and calm with his serious expression. This is just great. Sasuke-kun is right in front of me and I can't even enjoy it. She had tried everything she could ever think of to get the raven-haired boy's attention, but nothing seemed to work. Looking cute, seductive, wearing makeup, or different clothing, she had tried all manner of things. All of it had ended in failure. Every attempt she had ever made to make Sasuke notice her had ended in failure. She was running at her wits' end. Morning, you two. Sakura turned her attention to the other end of the bridge as her blonde teammate finally arrived. Why the hell are you always so late? A tick mark appeared on the pinkette's head. Naruto shrugged with an air of indifference as he walked over to the end of the bridge. Unlike you and the Emo King, I've realized that Kakashi is going to be 3 hours late every day. Rather than wasting my time sitting here, I train in the mornings. Sakura's right eye twitched and she opened her mouth to yell when a puff of smoke signaled the arrival of their sensei. Yo! You're late, Sakura shouted as she pointed at the silver-haired Jonin. Sorry, I had to help an old lady cross the street, only to find out that she was a missing ninja and I was forced to fight her. Kakashi held out 3 papers before Sakura could yell again. Anyway, these are for you 3. Naruto took one of the papers and raised an eyebrow. You nominated us for the Chunin exams? Yep. Kakashi nodded his head. I figured you guys are ready for the challenge. Those of you who wish to take it should sign those papers and turn them in at room 301 at the academy tomorrow by 4 p.m. Less than a second later Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. As Naruto looked at the approval sheet for the Chunin exams he could not keep the grin from forming on his face. This is gonna be awesome. Sasuke smirked. For once I agree with you, Tobi. Hey, Naruto returned the smirk. Looks like this will be a good chance to show everyone just how good I've gotten. I've been looking to kick some ass. HN. Sakura looked between the two before looking at her own sheet in worry. She wasn't as sure as her two teammates about entering these exams. Tenten, Naruto shouted in a sing-song voice as he opened the door to the Higurashi weapons shop. Tenten looked up from the magazine she had been reading and grinned. Hey Naruto. You look excited. Naruto gave her his foxy grin, patent pending, as he walked up to her. I think I've got a reason to beat today. Oh? Care to fill me in? Tenten raised an eyebrow at her friend. She was glad to see that he was close to acting like his old self. It had taken a lot of work to get him to be as open back up and return to his cheerful attitude around her after he had gone on his C-rank mission. She had literally spent 4 days using him as target practice in order for him to make up for ignoring her like he had. Even then, Naruto still refused to tell her what happened on the mission, often redirecting the conversation to something else whenever it came up. Maybe later, Naruto replied as he leaned on the counter. So is it ready? Of course, Tenten grinned as she stood up, knowing what he was talking about. Follow me. The two walked into the back of the store where the forge was located. Moving the ladder, Tenten climbed up it and grabbed a box. Grinning like a maniac she showed it to Naruto. I have a feeling you'll like this. Naruto opened the box and peered inside. Sitting on soft padding was a dark black gauntlet. It was basically a glove attached to a forearm bracer. The top of the glove had a protector that looked similar to the standard metal guards on most fingerless gloves with the leaf insignia. However, there were 3 vertical slits on the front and it was about 2 inches thicker than a standard guard. Under the wrist was another, smaller padding that had several small holes on either side of a large slit that went horizontally. Put it on and give it a go, Tenten suggested. Nodding, Naruto took the gauntlet and put it on, strapping it together and tightening the band so it fit snugly on his hand and wrist. He channeled some chakra into the top of the bracer and grinned as 3 wicked-looking claws flickered into existence out of the top over the fingers in between his thumb and pinky, extending 4 inches past his hand. Now this is what I'm talking about. He looked over at Tenten. I assume the bottom is a kunai and senbone launcher? Tenten nodded. Yep. Though the kunai you have to use are special. I didn't want the gauntlet to get too bulky and whatnot, so I created a kunai that's a lot thinner than the standard kind. I bet you just made them so I have to come here to visit every time I need to replenish my stock, Naruto said. He gave the bun-haired weapon user a grin. Miss me that much? Tenten scoffed and gave him a playful punch on the shoulder. Don't be so full of yourself. No one could miss your ugly mug. She giggled as Naruto gave her a pout. Besides, this is the only place you'd want to shop anyways. Her light tone stopped as she gave him a dangerous glare. Right? Sure, Tenten. Of course, Naruto replied, sweating a bit from the now oppressive look he was getting. Good. Tenten brightened up and smiled at him and the aura of dread vanished. Now, the launcher also uses that containment seal you made for it, since it was the only one that worked. You just channel chakra into the bottom and take aim. Though, you're going to have to go to a training field to test it. Naruto's sweat dropped at the completely random shift of emotions that all women seemed prone to do. Still, he was too excited to worry about his friend's odd mood swings. He had a new weapon to test and an exam to prepare for. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.